Are you stuck or are you loyal? You see, most people believe they're stuck, but in actuality, they're loyal. They're loyal to an old pattern, an old nervous system pattern that helps them play small to keep them safe. And these nervous system patterns are oftentimes installed at a very young age in the presence of authority figures, peer groups, repetition, highly emotionalized situations, or perhaps when we agree to something that otherwise we know is not in our best interest. So, quick question for you. Have you ever felt like you weren't doing something right? Like no matter how hard you tried, you built the funnel, you checked all the boxes off, you dotted your I's, you crossed your T's, you invested in a coach, you invested in a mentor, yet something continues to slow you down, it's slowing you down. Well, it's not a lack of intelligence, and it's certainly not a lack of ability. It's an identification with an old limiting belief. It's an identification with something that subconsciously you are loyal to. An old way of being that at one point in time served you well. But guess what? No longer serves you well. My name's Christian Raphael. I'm a medical support clinical hypnotherapist. And for over a decade, I have been working with peak performing women entrepreneurs at the intersection of identity architecture, subconscious mind programming, and nervous system regulation. And it's fascinating work because we all have this potential to do something fantastic, but oftentimes we hold ourselves back. If you find yourself holding yourself back, you are going to love this video. We're going to unpack some of the reasons why we do that so that you can live more of the life that you desire to live. So I want to ask you a question, another question. What do you need to believe is true about yourself in order to live the life that you desire to live? Heck, better yet, to live the life you deserve to live. Well, it's about balancing your nervous system, bringing your nervous system back into alignment, defining what it is that you need to believe is true about yourself to live the life that you desire to live, recognizing patterns, old patterns that are maladapted, patterns that no longer get you what it is that you need in life, but patterns that served you at one point in time in your life to get you something that you wanted or needed. Patterns that were oftentimes devised through the ingenuity and tenacity of a young child mind. Back in the time when our imagination could have us being Superman or Wonder Woman, running around the backyard with a towel on as a cape. When we remembered the smell of fresh cut summer grass and that first rickety spin on a two-wheeler. When all we knew was that summertime was here and our imagination was wide open. Our creative capacity at that time was at an all-time high for creating wonderful, epic stories that were uplifting and enriching. However, at the same time, we learned how to create protective mechanisms to keep us safe. And those protective mechanisms, many of them are now outdated, but they're still operating on an auto renewal subscription. The key here is identifying what is intelligent for us now. What is it that we need? What is it that we want? What is it that we have to amplify to create an even better life for ourselves? So you're a coach, you're a therapist, you're building a program, you're a consultant, and yet when you get to the edge of success, some part of you pulls back. That's your identity survival coming up. That's the part of you coming up that said, when I was a young kid and I was picked last to be on the sports team and they laughed at me, I just realized I better not put my hand up. I better not step forward because nobody's going to pick me anywhere. That type of mentality, that type of thinking may still be functioning in your subconscious mind now. So then the question becomes, how do I override that? Well, you cannot override it by willpower. Override it by focusing on what it is that you desire to experience, one event at a time, and then start to normalize it. Start to normalize it in a way where it becomes familiar to you. When things become familiar, they become easier. What's really happening here is the familiarity creates a state of rest in the central nervous system. We get into that parasympathetic ease. as opposed to that sympathetic fight or flight. We start to change. We no longer need to over-prepare. We can start to go with the flow. We can start to allow peace to become our greater expression, a more consistent expression. And as that happens over time, we habituate that. And when we habituate it, it becomes more natural. And when it becomes more natural, it flows through us. That becomes our new identity. That becomes our new forward-facing identity. Peace, calm, relaxation, and rest. And that can actually be felt through a Zoom meeting, through a video, or through a photograph. Let that sink into your body and think about that. So the question is, how do we build up to this? We've spent a lifetime in a protective state. How do we all of a sudden flip the switch? Well, you don't all of a sudden flip the switch. What you all of a sudden do is make a decision. You decide. What's the etymology? What's the origin of the word decide? Is to cut away, to remove that which no longer serves you. When you make a decision, you have power. And you step out on faith and you move in that direction. And you notice when that old doubting Thomas, that old doubting self comes up and says, hey, hold on a second. Don't you remember what happened last time you stepped out in the front? You got whacked. Don't do it again. Remember how much it hurt? Remember how much he laughed at you or she laughed at you? Do you remember how much you were ridiculed? This is all happening in the subconscious mind. When you can make friends with those feelings and start to build up capacity, you realize, I'm bigger than that. I'm better than that. I'm bolder than that. If not now, when? There's nobody coming to live my life for me. I need to live my life for myself moving forward to create that which it is that I desire to experience in life. I'm the one responsible for my experience of life, not some shadowy ghost of the past. When we start updating our thoughts and our ideas and we speak positive words, pay attention to what you're saying because you're listening. Pay attention to what you're saying because you're listening. Start speaking positive thoughts, positive words out loud and thinking positive thoughts. That becomes your new norm. So if this is resonating with you, like and subscribe for more helpful tips to rewrite the story of your life. Because it's not the story that matters most. What most matters is the meaning you give the story. This is Christian Raphael, medical support clinical hypnotherapist, and we will see you in the next video.